teach the way that you want to be taught. That's what I've always told our teachers, people that I work with day in and day out. The people are out across the states, the people are out there in the world. They have to understand that teaching now is so different than it was a year, 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years ago. And because we're in a pandemic situation, it makes the urgency to get a quality education even higher. And that's what we're going to focus on a little bit today. It's an honor to be with you. And what I'll hope you take away is to understand that there are ways that you can revamp education even in the midst of a crisis. So I'd like to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Handson. I'm an administrator at a place called Aviation Academy located in Newport News, Virginia. And I've been an educator for over 20 years. Starting off as a math teacher, I learned a lot about the classroom, learned a lot about relationships, developing good lesson plans. But over the last couple of years, my focus has changed. Working here at a STEM site and bridging relationships between business partners and our schools, we focused in on areas such as distance learning, as well as the importance of future learning, making sure that our kids graduate with the skill sets and the confidence needed to transfer those diplomas to dollars. And through these experiences, I've written 2 books. One is Blank Check, where it involves a fictional story about a principal who's burnt out and a teenager who overcomes multiple crises on a daring education experiment. The second book really gives the structures and the cornerstone to developing an elite STEM center. And I'm going to share a little bit about both of these with you in just the next few moments. But what helps anchor me into my work is my children. I have 2 daughters and a son, and also my wife, who is also an educator, who also sees the value in education and the crisis that we're all dealing with together. So for you to understand how to revamp education, we kind of need to backtrack a little bit and understand why we need to change education. Education is currently in a broken model, and it's been like this for centuries. Through nobody's fault, it's just become one issue after another issue, and we can kind of categorize these into 3 primary areas. One is the lack of integrated technology. Now, sure, we have PowerPoint, we have Word, we have interactive websites. But one thing you have to understand is teaching is still taught in silos. As a result, it makes it very difficult to connect curriculum, difficult to connect real life experiences, and difficult to connect creativity and higher level thinking. The things that we really want our kids to have in each and every class. We also have to understand and yet recognize that education is failing our kids because it addresses everybody as a whole. They don't necessarily look at the different cases, such as the gifted kids or the neurodiverse students or the English language students or the impoverished students. Every child is important. And that's why I say to everybody, you have to teach the way you want to be taught, and you have to adapt your teaching style so that it matches the learning preferences of those students. But really, what triangulates all this is that we, as a society, as educators, we fail to consistently address the needs of the workforce. We talk about it, we hear about it, but we're so focused on standardized testing, which makes it so much harder for our teachers to get back and tie in those real life experiences. And I'm going to show you how you can focus in on those testing, but yet making sure you have the skills, the curriculum, the rigor, and the savviness to develop and overhaul those lesson plans. Especially in the last few years, I've come away with a lot of things. And the first thing that I think is important to share with you is we need to modernize the way we teach and learn. We cannot use worksheets. We cannot involve rote style learning. We have to make it engaging. We have to make it entertaining in a way. We have to make sure that our kids are getting constant feedback and yet providing them with constant engagement through a fast paced lesson. We need to make sure that all of our curriculum and all of our resources are lined up so that they are optimally used at the right times. Otherwise, it's like a concoction that can go bad if you mix one step before the other. And we really need to make sure that all of our lessons are student centered. So, to help understand what student centered means, that means that the teacher is not teaching for 60 minutes up there, just straight talking and not given a chance to interact, to learn, to discover, to fail. After the teacher introduces the lesson, the students then get the opportunity to then dive into a lab, to complete a couple of assignments, to work together in groups to determine the next sequence of steps. When students take ownership in their learning, it transforms the way they process information. It changes their attitude and disposition towards education. And it also prepares them for autonomous learning, which is one of the major criteria in the future of learning. So these three things are essential. So Blank Check gives people these three things. It is a fictional book that enables our kids to have the ability to dream. What if they had the ability to reinvent public schools? When you think about it on the surface level, it sounds kind of easy. But the more you reflect on it, the more you study it, you analyze it, it's not an easy answer. The truth of the answer is it dives into how the community responds and rallies around their schools, how the businesses connect with the kids in and out of the classroom, how the parents are championing the educators and they're working in a unified front for everybody. That's what it should be about. And that's the secret. And that's what Blank Check shows. It is a guided step of a journey of a broken down, disgruntled former principal who was just burnt out. He's tired of the minutia, and he set sails with a troubled teenager. They both go on a daring education experiment to save the fictional St. Andrews Island. And when you put all these elements together, you see a fast paced story and you see something that's truly unique in the way that it's presented in today's classrooms. But don't just take my word at it. Take a moment to reflect on the video that you're about to see. So the takeaways from the young adult novel, just to kind of refresh everybody's mind: teenagers fighting opioid addictions as well as other issues such as trafficking, and making sure our teenagers and young adults are involved in active discussions when it comes to education. You just don't shove it at them and you tell them to do it. You make them an active participant, because some of the best ideas that I've ever received are ones that come from teenagers who have a whole different mindset of things and truly can unlock a lot of new potential. But Blank Check also understands the stresses that our society faces today when it comes to education. You'll hear more about it. You'll feel like you're there. You'll act and see and really resonate how educators are feeling the brunt and the frustrations of everything put at them. So some of you may be asking, who is Blank Check intended for? Well, number one, it's written as a young adult book. So it can be for middle and high school students. It could even be for college students, teacher prep students, gifted students, English language students. And the reason why the audience can be a wide array, it is that non-traditional book that really sets it apart from some of the other pieces. I promise you, it will make you think at a higher level. It'll make you dream, and it will make you wonder. And hopefully it'll make it become a call to action. So shortly after I finished Blank Check, I was talking with the teacher and I said, what do you think about it? And she thought it was a great idea. I said, well, what's missing? She said, you need a study guide. So I thought about it, and she was 1,000% correct. Part of the problem teachers have is that they don't have time to prepare lesson plans in the midst of everything else. So that's what the study guide is going to do. It covers 300 vocabulary terms in an Excel sheet that is spread out by chapter, alphabetical, any way you want to slice and dice it. But it also involves close to 90 different literary terms. So again, you can slice this by chapter, you can slice it by devices, and it allows you to amplify what you're doing in terms of trying to master skills and objectives. But the beautiful thing about this is that it sets itself apart from the study guides such as Dante's Inferno or The Outsiders. It is 30 interactive activities where kids are doing things that will interest them, and it ties straight into the book. And another feature that is actually helpful is, regardless of how the pandemic is affecting your area, it's designed for in-class, hybrid, as well as distance learning. So you have the ability to take the keys to the kingdom, if you will, and run it the way that you feel like it needs to be run based upon the conditions that are happening in your area. So for the next couple slides, I'm going to give you some examples, talk about them briefly, and you'll be able to hopefully have a better insight of how deep and how powerful the study guide will be. One of the areas we focus on is thematic connections. And two of the main characters are Josiah Rollins and Colby Holloway. Remember, Josiah is the burnout principal, and Colby is the young adult who's dealing with a lot of emotional times and turbulations in his thing. So through their bond, they work together to build a better future. And through direct and focused questions, students need to reflect and think about their reading and answer things like, what makes Josiah and Colby's relationship strong? Why is it healthy? Another question that pops up is, why should building a relationship with a teacher be a valuable experience in terms of a student's education? As adults, we certainly get it, but kids sometimes fail to make the connections. And sadly, sometimes they fail to make the connections when it's too late. And that's why we purposely created questions to make them think, make them reflect, and hopefully change their course so that they can improve in their journey. Another traditional element typically seen in most study guides is how the plot and conflict and characters develop. A lot of y'all have seen this before. This is basically the journey of a hero, where you talk about everything from initiating an event all the way down through the resolution. And in each of these steps, you have basically broken down areas that clearly defines what is your initiating event, what is your climax, what is your falling action, and what is your resolution. But just like any good movie, any good story, you're going to have multiple high points, you're going to have some low points, and you're going to see several key things such as turning point, conflicts, everything tied in together so that it's not just one unique element or aspect. It's everything from the beginning to the end. So the last traditional piece, component, if you will, in our study guide deals with cause and effect. As you can see, they set it up and then they conversely go forward in the grammatical aspect of it. So here's an example. So the sooner students have the authentic experience and conduct some career explorations, the more likely they will pursue them with interest. So see the cause and effect? That way students see firsthand how one thing affects another, and they're able to draw better inferences and have stronger reading comprehension as a result of these. But I want to tie in some of those interactive activities that I was telling you about. Two of my favorites I'm sharing with you today. One of them is called Let's Do Business. So this is where the student pretends to be an entrepreneur in the island of St. Andrews, where they're actually an entrepreneur for drones. And they have to develop their marketing plan. They have to develop their strategy, their launch strategy. They've got to do all these things to create a successful business. So the way that they do that is not through a PowerPoint, but they're actually going to use Desktopists. And that allows them to use a better platform than just a regular PowerPoint where you see nothing but boring slides and you see a bunch of words written on a slide that basically takes over the conversation. We set it up so that kids are becoming the young professionals that we know that they are, and have the ability and the savviness to come up with some creative things. Another one of my favorites is what we call social media frenzy. And it's just like it says. The student is now the public relations officer for the St. Andrews Public Schools. So they're doing a whole brand new marketing campaign. So they have to think about everything from logo to hashtags, how and the times they're going to present, and who are they going to get their attention when they do their post. So instead of just doing it through regular old Facebook and regular old Twitter, they're going to have to come up with a template from Ditch That Textbook and create their post from Ditch That Textbook. They're going to post it for 5 days and a total of 15 times. So a minimum of once per day, but a total of 15 times over those 5 days. And once they finish that, that's when their friends can get feedback to them. They can like it, if you will. They can reply back, create a conversation, and allow them to see behind the scenes how something can go viral. So to get more information on the study guide, visit my website. It's aaronsmithphd.com/study-guide, and you'll see the sample guide there. You'll see the options, including the bundle, And we've set it at a price of $14.99. We get it. We know prices um, affect influence in purchasing, but we also understand that we need to make it reasonable for you. So you're encouraged to check out the sample guide, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. As far as the book blank check, that can certainly be gotten in any of your bookstores. If you go to my website, aaronsmithphd.com/blank hyphen check, you can actually see chapter one, download it for free, and hopefully that'll convince you to understand that this is a great couple to have when it comes to teaching English, teaching reading comprehension, teaching literacy, and it's all tied into the standards. So when it comes to the bundle, you're going to get a big value. You're going to get an Excel sheet of the vocabulary. You're going to get an Excel sheet of the literary terms. You're going to get an Excel sheet of all the state standards for middle and high school in terms of reading. You're going to get a PDF of the actual study guide itself so that you can just plug and chug these instantly created lessons into the students that you are serving. So I'll kind of close out with who is the guide intended for? Again, students. It could be groups, individual. You can include it in a book club, after school events. Those teachers who just need a new resource, they're just tired of the same old, and they want something fresh. And again, respecting people's time, we've already done it for you. And especially if you want to change the way that you teach from teacher-centered to student-centered lessons, this is one way to do it. And a featured bonus that we didn't talk about earlier is some of the activities are STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, that are woven into the activities. That's what makes it cross-curriculum. So the other thing I want to talk to you about is the second book that I've written. It's called Awakening Your STEM School. And I thought I'd kind of give you a very quick synopsis of what STEM/STEAM is, depending on where you live. And this way you can get a little bit better insight as to what our book is about. Some people may ask, why should we focus on STEM in America? Putting it simple, we've got a lot of work to do. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are four industries in which can help catapult us into a robust economy. They can create higher jobs, higher paying jobs. They can change the quality of life for people. It can help reduce poverty. And it can also make a difference in the way our children are learning. And these are stats from 2018. So we're ranked 30th in terms of reading compared to the rest of the world. We're ranked 36 out of 79 that took that test in 2018. We're ranked 13th in science. I'm sorry, but this is unacceptable. If we're really doing what we need to do as educators, as a community, as businesses, we have to change the way that we approach STEM. And the way that you do that is you have to understand there's a blueprint. No two STEM schools are the same. So you take the underlying currents and you take what's there and you continue to refine it and you develop it and you make your pillars, you make your cornerstones, and you continue to solidify one brick at a time. And keep in mind that the more we talk about STEM, the more we do STEM, whether it's at home, whether it's with homeschool, whether it's K-12 school, the more we give our kids the opportunity to see these things and to do career explorations, the higher these statistics are going to improve. And it's sad because to me, I think kids are smarter now than they were 25 years ago when I first started teaching. The problem is some of them aren't given the opportunities. Some of them have more responsibilities than they did back then. And some of them just need a little bit more structure and guidance. So when you pull all these efforts together, you're going to see these statistics change. You're going to see them pop, and you're going to see a different way of thinking. And that's the beauty of STEM, is it allows kids to think in a cross-curricular focus that develops critical thinking and changes the way they focus on areas. So if you're thinking about awakening your STEM school, understand it will help you understand how to change the concept you teach and learn. It helps you to synthesize it all together. And it does give you a blueprint to build a better student. So within this book, I use my own experiences at Aviation Academy, where it contains over 44 ideas and over 300 tips, and gives you stories, real life stories that actually happened, that I was a part of and saw a difference. It shows you how to build partnerships with folks, with companies, with organizations. And I know that can be especially different with homeschooling, but the beauty of it is you're not alone struggling to maybe find partnerships and opportunities. When you coordinate your network and you unify that network, that's when you can go out as a solid voice, as one, and say, we need this for all of our children. It helps you to acquire funding and resources and opportunities. But what I really like about it is that it helps the kids to develop the skill sets needed to be successful in the workforce. So the next couple of slides, I'm going to help you understand what some of these things are. Soft skills. It is a combination of the ability to speak and write and the way people perceive you as a professional. The Wall Street Journal did a study last year, and in the study, they asked over 900 CEOs, and they said, what was the top 3 skills that's missing in today's workforce, the workforce that's just hired? They said that the number 1 skill is lacking the most is soft skills. Think about that for a second. How many kids cannot put together a complete sentence? Or how many kids struggle to write a sentence that makes sense? How many kids use emojis instead of being able to write a complete thought from beginning to end? This is what we're talking about. And this is how STEM helps to develop and refine it so the kids know the difference between when they need to be professional and when it's still okay to be a kid. These are just some of the typical examples in which they need to be doing. The hard skills. This is especially for people and students who love the hands-on work. So we're also talking about the written expression, the things that they have created, the things that they have participated in, the things that they are proud about, and how are they getting it to the next level. I tell kids all the time, you should have a resume, you should have a cover letter, you should have community service hours, and you also should have an e-portfolio. So when they tilt their head and they look at me, what's an e-portfolio? I ask them, what's some of the work that you've been doing? And they'll list them off, one here, one there. I'm like, have you taken pictures of it? Some have and some haven't. So once I explain to them that when they sit down with HR folks, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, and you show this e-portfolio to them, it's going to make them see you in a different perspective. They're going to really sit down and really understand the way that you think, the way that you work, and also the way that you can make an impact in their business. That's the importance of hard skills. But you cannot have soft skills or hard skills without the education and experiences. So that is a trifocal of the courses combined with the certifications that kids could get. Certifications could be inclusive to courses, non-included courses. Just depends on where you are and your interest, but also how you're researching, how you're developing prototypes, and understanding that it's okay to fail. That's right, you heard it. It's understanding how to fail, because when you fail, that's when you have the greatest opportunity to learn and reflect as a result of it. The core beliefs in STEM really mirror what every job is about, whether it's a teacher, a doctor, a veterinarian, a lawyer. 5 basic beliefs. Number 1, you should be safe at your job. Number 2, you should pay attention to the details, because that's where big mistakes can happen. The third thing is you need to be clean. Your workspace needs to be clean. You need to be considerate of others and making sure nobody has the opportunity to get hurt. You need to be prepared and organized. As I tell kids, you got to be game ready. But you also have to be committed. You can't just go in something half-hearted. You got to do it with everything you got. You got to be full throttle with it, and you cannot give up until you win that outcome. Those are the core beliefs of STEM. And it blends perfectly when you think about how education becomes a cornerstone. Education is when you're mentored from others. It could be a teacher. It could be a coach. It could be somebody that you see in the hallway all the time. It could be somebody from a job that you're doing a co-op with. And you're also melding it with those student-centered lessons. I cannot stress that enough. Student-centered lessons create better autonomous learners. And through student-centered lessons, you blend in growth mindset. So for those of you who don't know what growth mindset is, that is the ability for people to think positively and to continue to do their work with an open mind and ability to stay focused on completing that particular task. But education is more than just books. It's more than just a lesson. It's the ability to take leadership and self-direction into a level that they can mirror and resonate on their own. So I always tell kids, if you see yourself going down a pattern or a runway that is not right, you need to make the adjustments. Make the adjustments before it's too late. Great coaches do that on the field. They adjust at halftime. Why can't we do the same thing as the coaches do on the field? And that's why you understand that if you teach the students today the way that we taught yesterday, you're basically dooming them beyond graduation. You're robbing them of a better opportunity. And that's why I cannot tell you and stress to you enough, teach with inspiration, teach with your heart, and make them feel like they are feeling your energy. You got to take that curriculum and you got to put breath into it. You just can't say, okay, class, we're going to discuss chapter 1, page 4. We're going to the library. Okay, you cannot do that. You have to take the curriculum and you have to take it to the next level. You've got to develop your teachers. You've got to tell them, show them, be side by side with them. And you also have to recognize the importance of identifying and implementing STEM in a school or class. There's opportunities everywhere, and it's probably right under your nose and you just didn't realize it. So don't just think of it as a science class anymore. Don't just think of it as a math class anymore. Do some things, tweak it, adjust it so that it becomes STEM based. And all this really blends into teaching with inspiration. These are part of the things that I talk about when developing your STEM school. Okay? You've got to have the spirit for the work. You have to be enthusiastic. You definitely need to include as many real life scenarios as possible. That's one of my biggest mistakes when I taught math. And I'm hoping you can learn from my mistakes. When kids see those skills embedded into the curriculum, into the lessons, that's when they're going to really become active. That's when they're really going to wonder, well, why did they do that? What happens here? What if we do if we adjust it here? Those real life lessons make a difference. Think about it, some of the best things you ever learned came from a story. Same idea, same concept. That means that you continue to rejuvenate your lessons frequently. Don't just do it once a year. Make the adjustments during the game. Don't wait till it's too late. And make sure kids have the ability to be creative. It just seems like the further they go up, the less they have the ability to be creative. It becomes almost mundane. And when that happens, nobody wants to be there. Teachers don't want to be there. Kids certainly don't want to be there. So what do we end up with? A bunch of poor grades and poor quality of work. Make sure kids are having fun at what they're doing. Because when you do, you will have fun just as much as the kids are having fun. So shifting a little bit in terms of embedding STEM into the curriculum, there's always ways that you can integrate technology. I'm not talking about Microsoft Word or PowerPoint. I'm talking about interactive things. And you might think I'm crazy, but if you're talking about an architecture lesson, why not integrate Fortnite with it? You heard me, integrate Fortnite with it. Or Minecraft. So when you do these things and you integrate Minecraft, you create things such as symmetry. You allow kids to use the geometric shapes, the 3D objects, and you create a little bit of structure, and they're going to show you some incredible products. Hands-on learning, everything from Legos to outdoor labs, okay, field trips. Make it hands-on. Make sure the curiosity is engaged. Make sure kids have the ability to ask questions without feeling threatened of reprimand. Embed higher level questions. Don't just do those boring, why did this happen? What if you change this variable? What would be the outcome of this? Make sure that your curriculum builds upon prior knowledge. Some people call it scaffolding, but when you do and you build and you resonate, you continue to strengthen the skills that they may not have learned before, and you continue to develop and advance the skills that you're currently working on into the moment. Tying in those careers. Remember, there's going to be jobs that are going to be created that we haven't even thought of yet. So that's why you still stay focused on the skills, but you also put a splash of careers in there so that they can see some of the jobs that would entail, let's just say, big data. So if somebody's good with math, that doesn't mean accounting necessarily. That could be artificial intelligence. It could be programming. You get a lot of things. And that's why kids have to understand that these jobs involve certain skills. And if they're great at some of these skills, they're going to be very successful in their careers. So if you're teaching a core class, I want you to think about these 4 elements. How do you know what success looks like in a classroom? Does it look differently for each kid? Is it just a bunch of A's? How can you justify it quantitatively as well as qualitatively? What do you currently have in place to make sure kids have the ability to be successful? When are things becoming better for students? How do you know when things are bad? And when do you integrate these things with your business partners? Okay, these are big questions to ask, and they're going to take a little time to think through it. But once you start digging and you start searching and you start putting things together in sequence, that's when they're going to come to light. So to find out more information about myself, you're welcome to go look on Amazon. Please visit my website. I am on LinkedIn. You just need to go to Aaron Smith, PhD. I'd love to hear from you. I have a blog, so you'll be seeing a lot of workplace readiness, workforce development, but also distance learning, because I still see so many issues that we have to work on together. And I encourage you, dare to dream. Change the way you teach and learn so that your outcome will become greater and even bigger than you even imagined. Really appreciate you tuning in today. I hope to hear from you. And as always, continue to make a difference in the life of a child.